Well, my greatest fear, I would say death.
And then I'm excluding that one.
Right. So
Okay.
what would be my next greatest
what's
fear?
your next greatest fear other than death?
Suffering before I die.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Law Light. It's brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, FWHlegal.com. We are sitting in the high-rise White Tower at 530 Frederica Street, Owensboro, Kentucky, and we are broadcasting this episode out to the world. PJ, are you ready?
Oh, I'm always ready.
I know you were ready early today. Like I actually, last evening, everything was set up in my office for us to get this going, and then I was running a couple minutes late this morning. So, but caffeinated and got a little more here.
Yep, I had a triple shot Starbucks energy drink, so I'm good to go.
Is that why you're shaking?
Yeah, it's 225 milligrams
Oh my
of caffeine.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like the whole daily
You need
dose
to
in
warn
one.
your heart before that comes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I haven't had a heart attack yet, so I say that and my LAD's going to explode right in the middle of this.
So how you been? Everything okay?
Good. Everything's going good. I don't know if you noticed this or if you saw this, but I have a Wikipedia page now.
I saw that. Who do you know who created that?
I didn't at first. Trina found the information. It's a guy. I don't know this guy, but he works for a college in Clearwater, Florida as a video editor. He put the page together like 5 days ago. I don't know why. I was talking to Amy about it, and she asked me, she's like, are you not concerned at all? Because it's pretty thorough. Like, it has Trina's name on there. It's got how many kids I have, their names, my date of birth. Of course, he got all this information by researching me through various interviews I've done over the past like 10 years.
Right.
So that's how he got all that information. But Amy was like, does that not scare you at all that some complete stranger put this whole thing together?
I don't
very
think
accurate.
I mean, you must be famous though, because like I don't have a Wikipedia page.
Well, I don't know if I'd. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Here, let's just look. What do you do? Go to Wikipedia?
Yeah, you go to Wikipedia, and in the search bar, you type your name. Now, I didn't just look myself up. It was brought to my attention.
Well, I saw on your Facebook where you were like, "Hey, look, I'm on Wikipedia and don't know why."
Yeah. Well, there's another project that I'm executive producing called Cryptids. It's like a creature feature anthology, and I was looking at something about that, and then it led me to finding the fact that I had a Wikipedia page. I wouldn't say I'm famous because it's kind of like I'm also on IMDb, which But the problem with IMDb is like, it seems it's great at first, but it loses its luster very fast once you realize that just about anybody who says that they're doing something, they can put their name on there.
Well, I'm not on there. I just checked.
One of these days.
You, my friend, are Wikipedia.
I am.
Substance, man.
I am.
Okay.
The problem too with Wikipedia though is anybody can go in and edit it, and somebody already has saying I went to like the Khaki Pants Academy or something like that. That's all I ever wear.
That's funny. That's funny.
Which is still accurate information.
It's accurate.
To some
it's
degree.
just a play.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I got you. Well, listen. Several things to talk about today. I'm excited about our show here, our episode. I don't. You call it show or episode or whatever this is.
Yeah,
we do.
It's definitely a show.
A show. Right. Okay. So. We're excited. We got a new team member coming on board here at the old F-Dub, and we're
so hip and trendy around here.
Yeah. So my wife Missy, who is a nurse, got her bachelor's of BSN, which is Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. So it's another kick up in the nursing rung there. And when she did, a lot of her employment opportunities kind of expanded, and
That's awesome.
there were some things that we just couldn't say no to as far as income for her.
Right.
And she's got, my 2 stepsons heading off to college, so it was a no-brainer that she extra income during this chapter of life would be a nice thing. So
yeah.
Anyway, she took a great job, some of which I'm not allowed to talk about because of the nature of it. But that left a huge void here at the firm, and that is we have to have a medical legal type person who helps us with the medical records, summary, obtaining them,
right.
reaching out to clients, making sure that they're keeping appointments and things like that. So through the process of several interviews and reviewing a bunch of application or / resumes type, we did select a lady by the name of Tara Dant. Okay. Tara was the head over medical records and billing at Osmo, Orthopedic Sports Medicine of Owensboro. Before that, she worked at Midwest Ear, Nose, and Throat in the otology hearing testing place, and so she comes with a lot of experience, not necessarily the nursing background as much as Missy, but more in the oversight of medical records, the accuracy of medical records, and things like that. And so for the reason we have a person on staff, that just kind of fit the bill.
Yeah.
And so Tara starts with us on Monday, and we'll hit the ground rolling. We got everything ready for her to go.
Cool.
So we'll have to get an interview with
I was going to
Tara
say we'll have
soon.
to bring her on the podcast.
Bring her on the podcast.
Missy was a tremendous help. I know, like with me personally, with what I do, she helped so much and had so many questions. Of course, plus with me being a hypochondriac.
Yeah. So now I don't know of the hypochondriac. But Missy, I'm glad you said that. Missy's still on our payroll because our medical negligence cases and things like that. She's going to help produce us critical event timelines because she was really good at that. That's what she liked the most about her job was the digging in and doing critical event timelines and things like that. So in her new job, because of the nature of it and some of the stress with it, they give her a day of the week in the middle of the week off. And so that will... she will use that sometimes to help us as we need it. So if I can still get you to her if you have.
Right. So I could just shoot her an email.
Sure, she still has her
firm
email.
If I'm worried that I'm dying of lung cancer,
right?
Or
Or the caffeine hits your heart today, and you're wanting to know if these
and I start having weird palpitations. Yeah.
But speaking of applications, last evening, one of my daughters showed me this really funny application. Okay. It's like an application for employment, but there was a little spin on that. It was an application to date my daughter. Okay.
Oh, this should be interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, we had, an hour and a half of laughs and just going through, and there's no way I should have brought a copy of it just for this, but I was thinking this morning as I was coming in, we were going to be talking about Tara and all that, how I interviewed so many people, and that's an arduous process, but this whole idea, I've got 4 daughters, right? As you know, because you're going to be doing the video work, we have a wedding coming up in September.
Yes, we do. It's like right around the corner.
Right, and depending on how well you do with that little project, then I have one the following July. My second daughter will be getting married in July.
And then eventually 2 more after that.
That's right. So this could be, your little retirement program. But
it's the job security.
I think back to the very first time that I had a young man that asked for permission just to take my daughter out, okay? He called and he said, Travis, and he said, this is Cameron, and I was like, okay. And he was like, I was wondering if it would be okay with you if I, took Kate out. And I was like, well, do you intend to feed her? I was like, because you're not going to bring her home hungry, man. We're not. If you take her out, you're going to feed her. He goes, He laughed, and so that began a process for me. Of course, Lainey dated a lot, and Kate, and now Allie and Tori are kind of Allie's at school and meeting guys, and it's just sort of it's a tough time for a dad because these other guy, you've been the only guy in this girl's life, and then all of a sudden these other dudes start showing up and they're punks, and they, you're like, what,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why this application was fun. Okay, so we're going to discuss a couple of the questions on the application, if you don't mind. Is that cool?
No, that's fine.
All right. I mean, did we have anything else we needed to cover today? I mean, we wanted
don't think
to talk
so.
about,
Yeah.
The other thing, remind me to talk about Nashville, okay, before
Okay.
all right.
I'll do my best.
All right. So here's question number 1. The bone on my body which I would least like broken is blank. That's one of the questions from the application. So, this kid, you're going to give it to him, and he's got to fill out the application. He's got to tell you which bone on his body he would least like to be broken, insinuating that if something goes wrong here, I will be breaking the bone that you least want broken.
Right.
So we started talking at my house about broken bones, all right? And have you ever broken a bone?
I have not.
You've never broken a bone on your body?
Yeah, and it's funny because, I've done, and Tyler can attest to this, like I used to do all kinds of stunts and things when I did videos, and I would fall down flights of stairs and everything. I got real lucky. But no, I've never broken
Have you ever
a bone.
had a sprain or nothing like that?
No.
No cast, nothing?
No, I'm like Bruce Willis from Unbreakable, just without the strength.
Okay, yeah, and the looks? No, I'm kidding.
No, he is
bald-headed now.
Yeah, they say that
bald is beautiful.
Yeah, they say that most women prefer men that are bald. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not working out for me because I'm going bald. So I'm glad I secured my wife before I went all the way.
Same here, because I would make an ugly bald person.
Okay, so you've never broken a bone. So
no,
do you have a
knock on wood?
All right, and I've broken several. Okay, and so we started talking last night about broken bones. I have a bone in my body that I would think would be just the most detestable break. Okay, but before I get to that, having asked you the question, do you need to think about it while I go, or do you have one that just immediately pops to mind? Like,
it's weird when you ask that question. Immediately, my mind went to it's a trick question. So if you say, well, the bone I would like least broken, I could say, well, one of the bones in my pinky finger.
That way, that's the one you break,
right?
And we talked about how a smart kid would
But then you would say that, but then maybe the trick is the pinky. So I pick the bone that's like even further away from that, which would be like a femur, so you break the femur. But honestly, I think in terms of pain, would probably be a rib, because you have to breathe,
right?
And and I've heard when you break a rib, when you breathe, it's just consistent pain.
Well, it is
with the expanding lungs and everything.
Right.
So I would say probably a rib or ribs.
Okay,
would be the bone I would least want to break.
Well, I had pneumonia and broke 2 ribs from coughing.
Yikes.
Yes, and I always say my pneumonia was a near-death experience, even though I never made it to the hospital. I felt like I was dying. But so yes, ribs are. My broken bones have broken a foot. Okay, I have broken an arm. All right, I've broken 2 fingers. I've broken my nose. So and those are all painful. I had an ACL tear, which is not a broken bone, but it's a serious knee injury. From dealing with clients, I know that 2 types of broken bones are always described as just basically torture, like torture chamber type break.
Right.
One is a displaced fractured sternum, okay, which is your breastplate.
Right.
All right. Which would go along with the rib type thing, except for it's on the front of your body, so you feel like anything. So a fractured sternum that's displaced. All right, okay. And the other is a fractured pelvis. We've had with our clients that have either had the fractured pelvis, they are never the same again. It's like it affects everything about their gait, their hips, their back, and so then everything goes from that. So, but you can't move with a fractured pelvis. You are basically kept still.
True.
With a broken arm, you can still get around with your legs and your other arm.
Yeah.
With a broken leg, unless you break them both at the same time, right? But a fractured pelvis, I haven't had one, but our clients, as they discuss injuries, think about the videos we've done, and the people that discuss a fractured sternum and a fractured pelvis are like gruesome. It's like torture chamber type pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, plus the sternum is, connected to all the ribs. So it's, So I would probably, that would be worse.
That would be tough, wouldn't it? It would be.
But, and it's funny though, but it's like when you break a bone and you hear that someone else has a broken bone, you can kind of relate to that. But like I said, I've never broken a bone, so I don't know what
well, then we start.
Now I know people have different pain thresholds, but because I've never broken a bone, I mean, I can't really relate. I can't, I'm sure it's painful, but I mean, I don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one of my daughters was talking about, my girls grew up as big Louisville fans because I'm a Louisville fan. They watched basketball with me all the time, and there was a basketball player that played for U of L named Kevin Ware. And they were playing a basketball game against Duke in the NCAA tournament, and he went up to block a shot, and when he came down, he just hit the ground, and everybody was like, hey, well, the long story short is the big bone below the knee, tibia.
It's the tibia, and the fibula is like the smaller one.
It snapped and went forward out his it just totally split the skin on the front of the leg.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, those are gruesome just because a joint goes where there is no joint, basically. It just, know what I'm saying? And those are gruesome. Anything that comes through the skin. Yeah.
Ugh. Well, I've seen videos like on YouTube and things where like sports injuries or people doing like skateboarding or rollerblading and things, and they come down wrong, and I mean, as soon as that snaps, their arm looks like, or their legs like jello. It's just like flopping around. So yeah, I can't imagine like how much that sucks.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Enough on anything else to add on broken bones.
No.
All right, are you ready?
Moving on.
The next question was interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you would answer on this one.
Uh-oh.
My greatest fear, other than the fear of the pain that could be inflicted upon me by my girlfriend's dad. Okay, so we got to this whole discussion of, I mean, obviously that's a funny question on an application to date my daughter. It's like, okay, whatever your greatest fear is, fear me more than that. But you had to explain your greatest fear. So if I was just like, I know you like have it. You have a super sonic sensitivity on fear factors. I mean, you're like afraid of everything.
Yeah. Well, it all stems from death.
Right. And I think, I was going to predict that was probably going to be your answer. But let's take the fear of death out.
Right.
Okay?
I already have an answer.
All right.
Actually,
all right. So what
under
is
the circumstances of the application, I would say my greatest fear would be hurting the other person. Not that I would go into it thinking like, hey, I'm going to hurt this person, but if you're going to ask me what my greatest fear would be, you never know.
You would get major brownie points with a dad if that's what you answered on that application.
Because the last thing you want to do is break someone's heart. So I would say from a relationship standpoint, it would be hurting the other person or breaking the other person's heart. That would probably be my greatest fear.
You're just trying to get – that is bull.
No, I'm being serious.
No, I mean, like, I know all your fears, dude. You
said death was out of the equation.
But, okay. So you mean to tell me that you're more worried about breaking a person's heart than you are of walking a tightrope across the Grand Canyon, like a fear of heights or spiders
that's
or
not
snakes
what we're talking
or
about.
Rats or anything like that?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm not really. It's odd. I'm not afraid of spiders or rats and things. Like none of that bothers me. Like I'll pick up I won't just pick up a spider, but it doesn't bother me to like mess with a spider and stuff like that. So I'm not scared of those things. Now, if it's a black widow, then I start thinking, well, what are the consequences of being bitten by a black widow?
Okay.
And then once that gets closer to like bodily harm and death, then it becomes an issue. But I mean, we're talking about relationships though. This is so. You said death was out of the equation. I know that sounds like a BS kind of like a.
Well, that's what you'd put on this. You would put that on this application, but taking it outside the application is if I was to say, hey, Peach, what's your greatest fear?
Well, my greatest fear, I would would say death.
And then I'm excluding that one.
Right. So
Okay.
what would be my next greatest
what's
fear?
your next greatest fear other than death?
Suffering before I die. Which, if you think about it, it's all kind of interconnected, because if I break this girl's heart,
You will suffer.
I will
Because
suffer. The dad will kill me.
The bone in your body will start with that.
Yeah. He'll break a rib. It'll puncture one of my lungs or my heart, and it will kill me.
There you go.
So it's all kind of
this
connected.
application. You would have been great to have there last night as we discussed the application.
Yeah. And I want to remind the listeners, I'm married.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So okay. My greatest fear from an external factor that could be created to make me scared. Like, I am afraid of dark water. Like I don't like to jump in water that I can't see. Like, I'll go to, like, when I was a guy in college, and after that we'd have friends that had ski boats, and I'd go skiing, But when I wiped out, man, I was all about getting back in the boat. Like, I don't like not knowing what's below me. That really freaks me out. And I'm a great swimmer. In fact, I had to overcome this fear to do the Ironman, which I swam 2.5 miles in the Ohio River.
Yikes!
And
there's tons of dangers,
right? And I've swam, but I think there was a side of it that I was in the water with 2,000 other people, and I was like, oh, so the logic side of me was my odds go greatly down. That whatever's down there would pick on me as opposed to the other 1,999 people, right? But when I swim in the ocean, I am fine as long as that water is blue or green, clear, But when I get out and I can't see what's below me, it really does. So I have a fear of that. That is a fear of mine.
You know what's funny? I have the same type of fear. I don't like the ocean in general.
There's a lot of stuff in the ocean.
I'm okay with, like you said, like the clearer water doesn't necessarily bother me. But yeah, what bothers me is that there's fish with teeth.
Right.
And they will eat you. And no human being should ever be like, I got eaten by a fish. Like, what a crappy way to go.
When I was in college, I worked at, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I worked for a summer as a deckhand on a boat, okay? And let me tell you what you can pull out of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, while those charter guys are pretty good at putting you over where the fun fish are, they still have teeth, mind you.
Yeah.
But let me tell you some of the weirdo things you can pull out of that Gulf. I mean, there's been fish pulled out, and the guys that have make a living out of it, I don't know what that is. I mean, there are all kinds of things in the Gulf of Mexico and in any body of water like that.
Yeah.
But so here now.
Well, I've heard that we've only explored like 7% of the actual ocean.
Yes. Yeah. That's
so
true.
There's no telling what kind of prehistoric things are down there just ready to eat you.
That's something like a force of nature or natural or like people heights or snakes and things like that.
Right.
I mean, of course, I'm afraid of a snake. I don't like snakes. But there is also something that I fear. And this one it's interesting. I am afraid, I think, a lot of times of losing other people in a way that is not natural. Okay?
Right.
I guess a lot of it's because of what I do for a living, and I see how quick things can happen to people.
Yeah.
There is this progression in my mind that's supposed to take place. I'm supposed to die before my 4 kids. My parents are supposed to die before me. I would like to think that I would die before Missy so that I don't, so I fear something bad happening, and not necessarily just something bad happening to the people that I love. That is a fear of mine. Now, it does consume some of my thought. I'm like, every time one of my daughters leaves my house in a car, I think, is this the last time?
Right.
Yeah. And so I do. I fear. I have a fear of things happening to the people I love. And it's something that's very real in my life. I have to deal with that.
Well, I know that you said that since the incident that happened with your dad, it's gotten more prevalent. Like,
Right.
But I think that fear is kind of a natural fear, especially when you start a family and you have people you're responsible for. I think because I can tell you when I started fearing death and worrying about death, it was when my grandfather died.
Right.
But
and you've told me about
but
that.
simultaneously, and I did kind of talk about this before, I think, but like simultaneously, I started worrying about my grandmother dying. So I used to like sneak into her bedroom, and this sounds really creepy, but like I used to sneak into her bedroom at night. When she breathes real lightly. So I used to sneak into her bedroom just to make sure she was still breathing, because I was
wow.
terrified,
Okay, yeah.
that she was going to die in her sleep like he did. But then eventually it started extending to other family members. I'm like, what if my brother dies? What if my mom dies in her sleep? So, and then once I had I had my own family and kids, I'm constantly like, I see these commercials, or I've known people whose children get leukemia and stuff like that. Are we going to be out one day and Logan's going to go, man, my leg is hurting or something, or my arm is hurting, and then we go and find out he's got like muscle cancer or some kind of horrible thing going on with him. So like I worry about that stuff constantly.
Yeah. All right. Well, last I don't know how we're doing. True, just got heavy.
Happy
quick.
Friday.
Yeah. All right. So let's do one more. Yeah. Let's do one more little discussion real quick. And
Okay.
this is just funny. It was the application required you to leave a $500 deposit. In the event that something bad were to happen, you would forfeit your deposit and an account number of your checking account. And we started talking about this led us into a discussion last night of how quickly we give our financial information out. And because just the night before, my daughter was doing she was getting a special treatment for some acne, one of my daughters, and it required, since she's not 18, it required a parent to okay it, and then the parent had to show their license. And I was like, yeah, okay, let me go get it. And then Missy was like, are you sure you want to take a picture of your license? So then we had to go back and check and make sure it was a secure site, and it makes, see if there's any reports of anything before I did it. But do you, how quickly do we give our account numbers out or our financial information, over credit cards just to buy whatever you want online,
Yeah.
And that's processed by a machine, but ultimately a person looks at it. A person ultimately looks at it to make sure it goes through or fill the order or whatever. And here's all this information that we're giving. And, even though it was given for fun, and this is a refundable deposit and things like that, I think, which is really cute on the application, right? What about you? Are you pretty tight with your what you do online as far as banking / credit cards and things like that?
I am now. There was a time when I wasn't. I actually fell victim. Well, I say fell victim, but I mean it was my fault early on in probably maybe a year after we had gotten married. A year or two after we got married. I've been almost married for 20 years, so that'll give people listening an idea. But I got one of those phone calls that was like, hey, you've been selected to, you've won this trip. It's a 7-day cruise, and it comes with this and this and this and this. And I've always been skeptical of things, but I continued to talk to the person. And it got to the point where, and I always thought I would be better than this, but it got to the point where they sold me on the fact, I can't remember what the details were, but they told me several things that led me to believe maybe I really did win a cruise. So Trina was there with me, and we're talking about it, and it's like, well, maybe it's legit. And anyway, it led to me giving them my credit card.
Oh, no.
For like incidentals, and then of course they were going to send the tickets and this, that, and the other. So I gave them my credit card information. Then I got off the phone, and I just started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. I gave some total stranger my credit card information. And no matter how legit it seems like this is, how legit is it really? And then I ended up talking myself out of it. And within like 5 minutes of getting off the phone with them, I canceled my credit card. I reported it and had to stop, put it so they'd send me a new credit card. So I ended up just getting rid of that one.
Did you ever find out if it was fake or legit?
No, I mean, I never received any information or anything in the mail that they said they were going to send me, so I can only assume that it probably was not legit. But I was naive enough to believe at the time, or let them lead me to believe, that it was a real thing. But it was after that scare, you know. Now I did it to myself because I didn't have to give them anything, but it was after that I got a lot more cautious. And then of course, you know, over time with credit cards and making stupid purchases or poor decisions, you kind of learn those life lessons along the way. And now, you know, years later, I'm still not fantastic with finances, but I'm a lot more seasoned with it. So in terms of giving financial information away, I'm a lot more careful about it, unless it's a bill that I have to pay, like, you know, gas, water, that sort of thing.
You know, I mean, I've in the last year made a concerted effort when things ask for passwords. I used to use the same password for everything.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm kind of that person now.
And well, I decided, I made a concerted effort over the last year to change all my passwords to something that was a lot more difficult to, you know, and then all of them are different, so that if somebody did get in, they'd only get past one. They wouldn't have something. And the problem with that is you got to keep track of it all, and passwords are crazy, you know?
Yeah, and everything has a password now. I mean, you have like 20 passwords. I used to do that with separate passwords on everything, and I started getting mixed up, and I had to keep, I had to keep clicking the forgot password.
Right.
So I got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to make it all the same password. So which is stupid, but.
Well, listen, we take some time when you have a spare minute and just Google application to date my son or application to date my daughter. There are some hilarious ones out there.
I'll have to check that out.
It was a good relief last night. We had a good old time and discussed it. But take some time to look at that. Now, real quick, you were supposed to remind me about Nashville. I appreciate you doing that. And hey, you didn't give me a chance. You weren't going to.
No, you're right. Actually, I completely forgot.
We have opened an office in Nashville, a small office in Nashville. It's going to be an office where both Foreman Watson Land Title and Foreman Watson Holtree have a presence. The attorney for Foreman Watson Holtree that'll be there is a guy named Mark Dougal and a girl named Alexandria Owen. And those two will be in our downtown Nashville office.
Cool.
Which will help us be able to work on cases that are on the Tennessee-Kentucky border, kind of like we've done for years with the Indiana-Kentucky border.
Right.
And so we're really excited about that. We had a day of meetings yesterday about what that's going to look like. And it's in effect, I mean, Mark's there. He's practicing law. He's transitioning from his being his own firm, but into our firm. And so that's a little bit of a process. But so we're excited that you'll hear more about what we're doing in Nashville. I know I've already given you a small project on that.
Yeah, Jim actually introduced me to Mark yesterday. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he really is. So just wanted to get that out there that we are now officially in Nashville, Evansville, Bowling Green, Owensboro, and we have
Calhoun
and Ohio County, which are offices too. So we don't want to be like this national firm. We're a regional firm with people locally, and that's the difference. And we are there to invest in those communities where we're at, which gives us the ability to be more flexible. So looking forward to the next several years of developing a client base of good clients and making this thing continue to roll into the future.
Does that mean we're going to be taking trips to Nashville to do like personal injury interviews?
We could do we could do some interesting work in Nashville. And some fun time there as well. But listen, we run out of time for today, and it's been fun. We'll be back next Friday. But until then, this is Travis and PJ with Law Lite, Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. You all have a great weekend.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith and justice. We need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!